and I met the first time, I don't remember how I ended up in your house, but I went to your house when you lived in the Valley and you were building these things, listening to the World Service, having a cup of tea and smoking a cigarette, and you hand-built my 312 in front of me, which I still own to this day, and I don't have any reason to get rid of, because that's the great thing about the BAE gear. It'll last longer than you will. So I'm sure my kids will flog that on whatever eBay is in 10 years' time. I think actually I should have you autograph the front of it for me so I can have the only Mark autographed 312 in the country. The gear was chosen specifically, you know, whether it's the 312 or the 1073 or whatever the producer or engineer picked for that moment. All of these tools were specifically chosen. Nothing was happenstance. Nothing was like, man, unless it was one of those lucky little things where you like, I plugged a thing in and then it suddenly did this other thing that you didn't know it was gonna do. But these choices were made. And when you can be, that's one of the things that I think, one of the blessings of my sort of this higgledy-piggledy wombles career that I've had has given me, is that I know enough about all of the little steps to be able to bring them into the context. If I hadn't bought that preamp from you, and if I hadn't researched gear myself, I wouldn't be able to bring that angle into it and let people know who have never walked into a recording studio in their life how vital those choices are. Like why the harmonic distortion of a 312 is a choice that people would make. Nobody would assume that if you're a fucking punter. You just think you plug a mic in and you're good to go. All studios are the same, all gear is the same. It's like, no, it's as different as a guitar is from another guitar. So when you get to give people that level of knowledge, and one of the things that I do in the show is I'm constantly joking and I'm improvising. I make the show up as I go along. There's no script. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. The minute I walk out, it's just fucking freewheeling. But to be able to center it all in factual information while people are laughing and enjoying themselves and listening to this beautiful music, all of that information is then carried out. You walk in, there'll be 200 of your best mates, and I'll have a screen or two screens that'll have the Pro Tools window up so that people can see a waveform, because we don't even think about that. People don't even understand what fucking audio looks like. So that's a mind blower to them, that something that they can hear can actually be something that they can watch, and they can watch the bass line go and see the silences in between. But then I also use the screens to bring up photos of the band and the engineers and everyone I'm going to name over the course of the next hour, so you have a picture in your head of what they look like. And everybody gets credit, whether it's the fucking drummer that you done, whether it's Clive Stubblefield or, you know, Keith Moon. Everyone gets the picture so you can see them. And then I do it the same way that you would track it. I start with the drums, and then the bass, and then the guitars, and then the keyboards and the vocals, and we go through all of the pieces. Sometimes I'll play the entire track, sometimes I'll just jump from interesting bit to interesting bit. And then it gets really cool is when you get to play just the engine room, as I call it, which is just the bass and drums together, and you get to hear fucking Entwistle and Moon, and you get to hear what that relationship sounds like, and you get to experience that, and I get to then explain to people what the relationship of a bass player and a drummer is, and why they're so fucking important, and why there are these engine rooms that are incredible and virtually telepathic because they've known each other for 15 years at that point, and we as musicians know what that feels like. You know what it's like to play with somebody who knows you that well. The average punter's got no idea. So as you build the track, you show them how these relationships are important and how each of them, like, you can listen to how much respect the members of Rush have for each other by listening to their tracks. You can hear it. You can hear the level of friendship and respect. So you get to do that, and then at the end of it, we'll sit and listen through either the whole song again or enough of the song for people to be able to hear the interesting bits. And then what's really cool about it is that I didn't realize in doing this that I was teaching people a transferable skill where they could then take the ability to break songs down in their brains and move it to material that I hadn't shown them how to do it with. And they can suddenly hear a bass line, and I get messages from people all the time saying, you've changed the way I listen to music. And that is, as a music fan and as a music maker, there is no higher a compliment that you can be paid by somebody than that you've changed the way they listen to music. I mean, that is a profound effect to have on somebody's life. And I think that one of the reasons that everything feels so fractured currently and so disenfranchised is because we're not all experiencing the same things culturally anymore, whether that's a television show. You know, I was reading did you know that when Mork and Mindy was at the peak of its powers, it had 60 million people a week watch that television show. 60 million. Fucking Game of Thrones breaks its arm patting itself on the back if they get 3 million people to watch them. 60 million people in one country watching one television show is an absolutely gobsmacking amount. This art form that we all care about hugely, that has been disrespected so atrociously, not by the musicians, but by the people that we had entrusted with our art, turned around, and of course commerce beats everything, but unfortunately it's now just become this sort of burble that happens in the middle distance, and you don't realize that what you're listening to is a 3.5 minute piece of art that was created by artists all the way through, down to the engineers and the producers and the people that made the gear. There's a reason that you buy a BAE, there's a reason that you buy a distressor, there's a reason that, you know, some producers never want to work on an SSL, that they wanted to work on, you know, an MCI, and there's all of these people, there's rooms that were designed by fucking geniuses, and the general public doesn't know that. And I think that the way to get them to re-engage in it is to show them why each, you know, like one of my favorites to do is Toto, because everyone in Toto is a monolith, as I call them, because everyone is a fucking genius. Everyone in that band is a master. I mean, there's a reason that Quincy Jones picked them to play on Thriller. So when you show people that all of the choices made by these people were specifically choices, it starts to recontextualize the music in a way that they will care about it more intrinsically because they realize the value in it. And then my hope is that that will then sort of drift out, and they will tell their kids, because, you know, I do 200 people come to a show and they'll bring 8-year-old kids. I have one kid who's like 12 years old and he always wears the concert shirt of whoever I'm doing that show for. If I did Michael Jackson, he comes dressed as Michael Jackson. It's brilliant. So I'm trying to get people to get their kids to understand that music is of value, and that all of these choices that people made were made on purpose. They were choices, because I don't think that the people that we trusted to look after this art form have done their jobs at all correctly. So it's now up to us to do it for them, unfortunately. I'm the first guy on the battlefield, so I'll just take my rifle, my musket, and I'll just go and do the fucking job until everyone joins me. But that's why I started to do it, was because I really felt that we had lost the value in music. I mean, once it became free, and people didn't really, you know, people were like, why do I have to fucking pay for it? Well, because it's an art form, you know? And that's the sole reason that I do it. And it's such a joyful experience. I'm so grateful for it, because watching people react, you know, if you do a David Bowie and Queen song and you're sitting there and you can hear people crying in the audience as you play David and Freddie together soloed, you realize, or they realize, that there's actually also magic in this, which is an experience that we've all had.